I will thank you not to call me Madam Chair. We're going to start with our anti-harassment policy. Harassment or discrimination includes sexual harassment, and it is an expression of perceived power or superiority by one person over another. If a person feels they have been subjected to harassment or discrimination, they must report this immediately to the confidential email, and a harassment officer, anti-harassment officer, will follow up directly to provide support. The anti-harassment policy gives us a collective responsibility to make sure that all of our party activities are safe. And what this means is your chairs are going to be quite strict in not allowing remarks on the floor which are derogatory, insulting, or humiliating. I'll signal also this yellow card. This is a way for a delegate to signal to the chair that they have a gender identity other than man, and this allows you to exercise priority in the speaking order. We will come to you earlier.
The Disability Committee is at 7:15 on Saturday night. I don't think that is the right thing to do. Most people with disabilities cannot last that long in the day. And I know personally myself in my service dog pockets, she will wear out, I will wear out, and my focus isn't there.
I have been advised that sitting longer than we have planned, particularly into the night, could trigger overtime obligations for the unionized staff in this facility, and that expense could become ruinous.
Brett Collins, pronouns they, them, theirs. While I thank the delegate for the motion, of the issues I have with it, the most pressing being the reduction of time for lunch, as this is an accessibility concern. We have many people for whom accessing biological needs is less quick.
I so rule to extend the Saturday lunch from 60 to 90 minutes.
I want to move an amendment that we just strike the lunch portion. Don't take away people's food. There's 1,000 of us here, and we need to go out into the world and find food and bring it back.
This is an amendment to the amendment. I am going to exercise my authority as your chair and call a vote on the amendment to the amendment about removing discussion of an extended lunchtime. The section about shortening lunch will come out if you vote yes now. We're changing the proposal so it is no longer about lunch. Those in favor of not talking about changing the lunch break, please show. The resolution doesn't include a provision about lunch. Point of privilege here on microphone 1. Can we get the accessibility mic for this delegate, please? Looks like a member is helping you. Thank you. Microphone incoming.
Could I please ask that the spotlight be turned off because it's right in my face?
I hear you that you are unable to see and on stage all the time. It's a feeling, isn't it? The elves in my ear have told me they have been able to cut some things, and then we will get on to celebrating Jagmeet.
I have a question about the video we just watched, the tribute to Jagmeet Singh. I want to know how much money it costs. I want to know how much time it wasted out of the convention. And I want to know who decided on it.
That comment that was just made is absolutely unacceptable. I'm in my house of party where I belong as a racialized person, and we paid a tribute that is incredibly fitting for an incredible leader. And that comment is so harmful in this space. I think the people that are here that are racialized, that are people that have not ever been seen before, deserve the space and our leader that looked like us and changed the politics for us as people that have survived genocide deserve goddamn respect in this house.
I wanted to thank the organization for sharing such a moving and appropriate tribute to Jagmeet Singh just a few moments ago. I was deeply moved by that.
The closed captions for this convention are running between 6 and 10 seconds behind. When you move to a vote, I'm still reading the debate. So if we just take a little pause, that would be appreciated.
I will invite delegates to assist me in better using the card by forming a straight line behind the microphone. With a prominently displayed equity card, if I see speakers ahead of you who are not holding a card prominently, it would be wrong of me to guess about their gender identity, and I will come to you. This applies so far, according to your rules, for gender identities other than a dude, but it is open to us to change our rules as we like as we move forward.
My understanding as an equity-seeking delegate is that these cards are to help the chair hear equity-seeking persons and that we don't only hear from white male delegates. Now, this is my first convention, so I could be wrong, but the reason The reason for my concern is that yesterday during the housing resolution, after a white man spoke, someone at this mic waved their equity card only to give their speaking spot to a white man. Now, that white man being a leadership delegate, notwithstanding, I had lined up for a long time to discuss the housing resolution, like many others, including my fellow delegate, Akua. I just want us as a body to understand the spirit of these cards, because we are a party governed by processes and not by any sort of shock doctrine.
The equity card applies to gender equity. This is the decision you collectively have made.
I would like to echo the sentiments of my friend Robert here. Yesterday, this card was used in an inappropriate manner. And while I understand in Ontario we note this as equity, even if that, this was also used inappropriately in terms of gender. I want everyone to be mindful that these cards for individuals like myself who identify as a Black woman have no value outside of this space. Many of us are living in the most oppressive conservative governments across this country. I am from Ontario. A lot of you are dealing with this in places like Alberta as well as Saskatchewan. To abuse the privilege of this card means that we don't allow individuals like myself with intersections that have been used for unpaid labor to build this party. That means that they go unnoticed and that they are disrespected. I want people to be mindful of what this card means as we continue convention. It's not enough to say that we believe in gender equity, and it's not enough to say that we are intersexual and value social justice if we do not model that behavior inside and outside of this space.
Hello, I was standing here with my gender equity card before you called on the previous speaker. That's my point of privilege that I would like to raise.
I will explain the speaking order, which is fixed, that I cannot amend, which is the pro-con rotation. You can move yourself up a line that you're standing in.
I am pro, and I was...
We went...
You went pro, con,
We went pro-con, pro, and my plan was to go con. The speaker at con mic 3 also has a speaking card. The delegate at microphone 2 had been in line before you, which is why I went there first. We're going to hear from the speaker on microphone 3, and then it will be your turn. It is not an ideal process, friends. I do not make these rules. I don't even love them.
Sorry, just real quick, point of personal privilege. I understand there's very little time and for delegates to speak, but early on the mic, it's hard as a racialized and transgender delegate to sometimes use this card and speak up, speak to somebody in front of me in line and ask, hey, this pertains to multiple intersecting parts of my lived experience. I'd like to speak. I was rejected when I talked, and it's frustrating when these are my rights being directly under attack right now in Alberta, and that a cisgender woman had spoken over me. And I understand her rights are important too. This pertains to her too, but I don't know. I hope that in the future the federal NDP will also have a broader interpretation of the equity cards for speakers. That's all. Thank you.
The vast majority of workers out there, they identify that cosplaying conservative leader Polyev as a worker, which should be shameful. We have to listen to the working class and fight like hell for them and defend them from people like, what the hell's that guy's name? The Prime Minister? Oh, Carney. And that cosplaying Polyev, because they're not workers. We're the working class party. We're going to put it in our Constitution, and we're going to fight like hell for every worker across this country.
Hi, I'm Roxana Petkova. I'm from Beaches East York. My pronouns are she, her, elle, and en français. It's going to be really hard to follow Rob Ashton. Amazing speaker. We are a working class party. I think most of us in this room are behind that, and while we can debate on the specific words and who is and isn't included, I think our Constitution needs to recognize that. And I also recognize there is, I'm sorry, I'm speaking way too fast. Let me slow down for the closed captioning. I'm so sorry, I get excited.
I felt that gender parity was not very well respected in the last resolution debate. I just want to remind folks to consider that where they are in line, who has spoken. That's it. Thank you.
Some voices have dominated this hall in the past, and I'll draw people's attention at least on the question of gender to this colorful card. If you have a gender identity other than man, you can wave this at me and I'll move you up the line. There is a predominance of cis-het white dudes, and you might look and see who else is at the microphone behind you. I also sense some impatience to move along, and I'll give you a parliamentary procedure pro tip, which is if there's nobody at the microphone, we'll just vote. I will remind the Assembly once again to take your non-resolution duties outside of the House. I have a hearing impairment and I'm struggling to hear the delegates, and I know that you are too. They listened politely when it was your turn, or they will when you make your way to the mortifying microphone. Let's have some order. We'll hear from the delegate on microphone 1, please.
My name is Parker Tian. I'm representing Vancouver Quadra. Just to reply my Franco comrades' point of privilege earlier, as you can see, I do have one of the translating device. However, I'd like to raise this to the chair's concern that the sign-out process for this device is not necessarily the best, because it requires you to fill the form and give a piece of your ID, and most people don't even know where to get it, which is behind the registration table. And also, like, they don't have enough pens when we're there, so there was a very long line up. So, and also for the device itself, because it's using infrared technology, you have to kind of like position it so it can receive the signal. And it has 3 channels, like 0 is for floor, I think, 1 is for English, 2 is for French. So I think the process of checking it out and for delegates to use them is just not as clear, which is why a lot of delegates don't have that. So I would like to bring this to the attention of the chair so we can like improve the process for the remainder of the convention.
Some of us, it's not a matter of translation, it's a matter of not having poor hearing. Everything is going too fast, and we need to read, whether it's in English or French, we need to read it. Oftentimes, by the time I get through it, the vote has occurred, and I don't know what we've done.
Cool, I can speak. Like to. Hello, so I would just like to quickly say that young candidates have not been in their fields for as long and do not have as much savings as older candidates, and for that reason they need to have more support than older candidates because they cannot put as much money in themselves.
Too long have we aligned ourselves with the US at the detriment of our health, safety, and financial competitiveness. Canada is one of the 2 countries in the world which has different elevator regulations. Only the biggest free elevator companies actually certify their elevator to operate here. So we end up with more expensive elevators, which results in accessibility concerns. When people make the argument that they support the motion but it doesn't go far enough, is that a con point or is that a pro point?
It's a good question, friend, and one of my favorites.
There's a pushback on the language around gender, the pushback on the language around DEI, a pushback around including a conversation around women's rights and calling it gender. And we will never have an equal world if we don't address that we do not have gender equity.
Phoebe Chow, she, her. Frankly, I think we can chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. We can be critical of our history as a colonial Western power while also affirming that it is important that we have a feminist policy. If I were writing this resolution, I would have included, it should be a decolonial, intersectional feminist foreign policy. It's starting to forget about women once again. As soon as the economy becomes an issue, it seems we suddenly forget about minorities.
My pronouns are he, him. I am rising on a point of privilege. I find that our convention, we have a vast number of white males speaking at mics, and then white women come to the mic and say, oh, on the point of gender equality, we are superseding the order. I want people to check their privilege. There are a vast majority of diversity and equity people seeking to speak at this convention, and I think we should embrace them.
That's a very well-made point, Delegate. Thank you.
In a moment where the Canadian government itself, the House of Commons, has less than 1/3 representatives who are women, it is more important than ever to make sure we as a party stand behind feminist policy and a feminist approach.
I also recognize that a feminist foreign policy was used to justify the invasion in Afghanistan and killing 170,000 citizens and affecting millions more, and I fear this could be used to uphold further wars in the future. So while I am a proud feminist and proudly will stand for gender equality, I do worry about such a foreign policy being used to negatively impact the marginalized people we are talking about right now. And for that, I rise in the most empathetic form against this motion.
My name is Leslie Thompson, she, her, Edmonton Manning, Treaty 6 territory. I'd like to call question.
It's a pickle because it's your right, but I did also promise that we'd hear from this delegate.
I think we can call question.